Good morning, or good evening, or merry time of day in general. I am just setting up a few last things that I can reach, hopefully, because Soot has decided to grace me with her presence, and of course we know that that means that I can no longer move and get anything else that I might have forgotten. Such is life. I'm looking for a spot too, but my lap was full, so let's see, where are my butt? So she has moved elsewhere. Let's see. Hello, I exist. Merry April, merry, at least for us, bright blue skies and springtime just starting. I was going to be knitting today. I finally got started on a shawl that I've been wanting to do for a while, but I discovered that I made a mistake quite a while back, so I think today will be, it's hopefully going to be nice, but it has a mistake in it, so today we are going to be unpicking several inches of painstaking knitting, because I was, you know how when you make a mistake, sometimes I will be fighting with myself as to whether or not I can live with it or not, or if I need to go back and fix it, and the conclusion is that we need to go back and fix it, especially since this is a gift for someone else, and I'm just like, it's not symmetrical, it bothers me, I need to fix. So that is what we are going to do today, and we'll see. I also have some socks that need to get darned if I find that I don't really want to knit anymore after I have finished unpicking this madness, but we will see, one thing at a time. Hello everyone. I am quite well. Bit tired, but quite well. So I am ready to chat and have a good time and be accompanied by a curious child who doesn't really like that I'm talking too much during her nap time, so I am apologizing, Your Majesty. Hopefully it won't be too disruptive. Good morning, good evening. So many people aren't usually here that managed to catch it. That's nice. Get some new people. Brave would try to fix something simultaneously while streaming. I'll be honest with you. I think unpicking this is slightly easier than trying to read the pattern while streaming, because that is also a little bit room for chaos, I think, trying to listen to what you are doing while trying to focus on a pattern and trying to read it correctly and trying to do everything all at once. And honestly, that is what happened, because I've been filming this, so it's going to be on a while until this comes out, because now we're going to unpick so many hours of work. Oh no. Shawls grow so fast. I always forget, it's so nice and fast in the beginning when you start it, it grows so much from the little center line, and as soon as you start getting hundreds of stitches on either side, suddenly things don't move so fast anymore, and you have to take a little bit more time. But I still enjoy it because it's nice, easy. I've been working on some things that I hope to share with you that makes it a sort of as you like it shawl. I don't know if you can see this, but the patterns are sort of changing throughout. We're gonna unpick from these flowers right here, because they are not symmetrical with the center line. And I don't know if I can find it. Where is it? Where's my center line? Here. Look how glaringly off center that is. So I don't know if you can see it properly. Yeah, you can see it. Oh no. That is not what we want. But I have learned a new way to unpick these. So instead of going back row after row, we are just putting stitch holders. So I've taken off, I have interchangeable needles, a small set. So I've put on sort of stitch stoppers to the end here, to my current knitting needles. And then I'm going to take the size needles that I'm using. These are 4mm. And a new cable. This is slightly longer, so I should have reused this one from the beginning anyway. This is 100 centimeters, I think? Yeah, 100 centimeters. And I'm just gonna pick up the stitches from where things started going off the rails. And of course this happened because I was trying to film at the same time and I was focusing more on trying to get angles that were nice and where you could see what I was doing than actually paying attention to what I was doing, which happens a lot more often than you might think. It's actually something that happens quite a bit, that I'm so hyper-focused on the fact that I'm filming that I end up making so many mistakes with the thing that I'm actually trying to show you. But yeah, good morning Mallory, good evening, hello Carrie and Shetika and Leia and Rin and so many friends that we have seen before. And let's see, where are we going to start this? I think we're going to start this here. Or are we going to do it the other way? I think maybe we're going to do it the other way. So what have you been up to in the time while I've been starting with this monster project? It always bothers me more. I know it shouldn't necessarily have to be like this, but it always bothers me more when I make mistakes on things that are for other people and not for me. Maybe I should care equal amounts when it's for me too, but it's always like more annoying when it's a gift for someone else. Why do I like working with black yarn so much? That has never been a problem in the history of ever. That's why people have camera stuff, I suppose. Yeah, I suppose. But I also like learning the different aspects of the craft and getting familiar with the various things one needs to be on the lookout for. Like, I always enjoy learning how things work, and even just if I want to like communicate better with the people who do things, so that I can expect reasonable things instead of, I mean, I probably had co-workers and friends and people who don't really know what we are doing and how it works and asks for things that are not really possible. And while you can never avoid that entirely, I like to at least try to work on that a little bit. There we are, I think. Where is my last stitch? Come here. There we go. I completely understand the inclination to demand more correctness in gifts rather than things for oneself. Yeah, it's quite common, I think, and maybe we should be more kind to ourselves as well, but it's nice to feel cared for by other. Oh, you have a fingering weight shawl off the needles. 6 weeks of work. Much thinking. Think it needs tassels. Ooh, tassels. I have been contemplating tassels for this one too, but I don't think the recipient would prefer tassels, so I think I'm going to refrain from that in this instance. But tassels can be quite nice. I do enjoy enjoyed them. Sometimes I wonder why I'm so fond of dark colors, because they do make jobs like this a whole lot harder. Why green? Why? Is it this one? Yeah, shows always take a while longer than intended, don't they? They just grow so fast and you want a nice, big, cozy, warm shawl. Dark colors are comforting and restful? Yes, I agree. Although, at this fingering weight black wool, I found that I actually tried to do a honeycomb pattern with that first on smaller needles, but I found that I actually couldn't pay attention. Like, the honeycomb that I chose was so difficult to pick up the dropped stitches and everything from the, what should I call it? Like you would skip 3 stitches and knit one, and skip 3 stitches and knit one, and then you would do a couple of rounds of that, and then you would pick up those dropped stitches or past stitches and pull them up and make these lovely honeycomb hexagon shapes. And I love the look of it. I think it's really nice. You get this lovely geometric 3D effect. But I think I have a sample of it somewhere, actually, because I have the basket that I was originally working on. I wonder if you can are actually going to be able to see this, since it is black. But yeah, no, that's that is not very visible at all, is it? Do I have the other sample in a different color? I want to show you this because I think this pattern is so beautiful. And I would like to make like a cardigan or a sweater or something like that for friends in it. Do I have more samples in here? It would be nice if I have my tension samples. I do not have my tension samples. Where did I put them then? I am organized, I swear, sometimes. Oh, I think I might have put them in the drawer over there. If you give me just 1 second, I will try and see if I can grab it. Just a moment. Samples retrieved. Shall we see? It was this one. Light blue. That might be a little bit more visible. But yeah, it's... I don't know how to explain it, but it's very like 3D, and I really like it. Like, it's a lot of texture, and I think it's really cool. But when I tried to do it in black on small needles, I could absolutely not see what I was doing. So I did have to give that up, because that would be a very frustrating cardigan if I insisted on doing it like that. So I went for, you know, a shawl on nice big needles instead, with like oversized needle to make sure that the shawl is nice and, you know, airy and has nice softness and everything. And that seems to be working a lot better with the black yarn, which I do find black and dark colors very restful and nice once the garment is done, but they can be a time and a bit to knit. Hello, Toria from Denmark. We are so many people everywhere, from the US and from Australia and from all over the world. It's so nice. Ikeda says, after I first got knitting, I suddenly found myself noticing knitting everywhere. Yeah, learning new things daily makes life so much richer, and also more distracting. That is very true. Both of those things are like no lie detected, and it's the same with any craft, I think, and a lot of things that sort of bias in seeing things everywhere. We have the same when we got a car for the spouse because they needed it for as an accommodation, and suddenly, of course, as one does when one gets a vehicle, suddenly you start noticing that car everywhere. Like everyone has your car and you're like, what's going on? But it's just that they were there all along, but suddenly you are noticing it because suddenly you have a reason to notice that thing, and it's super fascinating how our brains just do that without us really doing much for it. But same with knitting, like when you start needle binding and all those kinds of things, it's a similar type of thing where suddenly if people are, of course at Viking markets and the like, a lot of people are needle binding all the time and you see it everywhere, and same with card weaving, and you start noticing these things in movies and in shows and on other people, and it's so much fun to learn. And of course you also start noticing when people are crocheting and when they are knitting, and when people claim they're doing one or the other, and you have to be like, no, you are doing this thing, but you are presenting it as this thing in the show, and that is not actually what's going on. But how are you everyone? Are you working on cool projects? I am, as you can see, just cursing my choice of color in trying to unpick. It feels like I might need a little more light to see what we are doing. Valerie says, I found your channel while looking up how to care for your new 1907 Singer machine. That is so lovely. And yeah, those machines run so well a lot of the time with just like a bit of oil and care. It's amazing how little they require in many aspects, so long as they get that bit of care that they need. It's really, really cool. Start busting your yarn stretch when working on a fluffy crocheted cowl. Ooh, I love that. Cowls are amazing. I am a big fan of cowls. They are so warm, and it's, you know, around the neck is the one place that I need to be warm in order to feel warm. If not, I will instantly get cold. And it's nice to finally be heading towards a season where I don't need to wear my cowls all of the time, even though I am very, very fond of them. Lynn says, you actually inspired me to start crazy patchwork, although I haven't started it yet. Excellent! I love to see that. There are so many things we can be doing with patches, even though I know that the one thing that might be a little bit frustrating is that they always take a good deal of time. All sorts of patchwork and patch projects, because the pieces are so small. I feel by default they are also very time-consuming projects, and that can turn people off doing patchwork scrap projects, because, you know, you would rather be making bigger things and more fun things and garments and stuff like that. That can be challenging. And I mean, if you want to make a garment-sized thing out of crazy patchwork, that would take a long time, because first you have to make the patches into pieces that can be used, and then we have to do the connecting of the pieces and the lining of the pieces, and yeah, it can be a lot. It can absolutely be a lot. But I like them for You know, I feel like I don't need to be very cautious in the same way with my scraps, because I can just do the thing, I can just work with them and it's okay. If I'm experimenting with something new, I won't get in trouble for wasting a little bit of fabric, because it's alright. It'll be... Hello, madam. Would you like to join me and the viewers? You can if you want to, but you're not allowed to eat my needles. Catherine says, fellow crocheter here, making tiny motifs to try to recreate the sweater from the motif Bright Star. 350 done as the end of the day, about 1500 to go. Wow, that is so many. That is so many. That is a lot of work. And pardon if I'm knocking on the microphone, trying to let Madam get comfy. And that is so many pieces to get together into a cardigan. This sounds like an excellent project for doing one piece at a time. It says, Lynn says, this project will be anything but small. The goal is having something long-term that I can work on in bed. Yes, I like to call those my dum-dum projects, because they are the projects that I can just work on without really having to think or plan or, you know, be very attentive to what I'm doing. And I really like those projects because sometimes your brain is just mushy and you just need something easy. Like a lot of the time, if I'm coming out of a migraine and it's been a pretty bad one, I will feel that I'm getting better, but I'm not really up to the task of doing a lot of thinking work. My brain is still kind of mushy, and that's when, you know, I end up like lying like a potato on the couch and doing these finding a lot of joy in doing these dum-dum projects, because my hands can be working and like doing that nice repetitive movement, and my brain can just be off on vacation, and that feels really, really nice. Let's see. What else? Kiara says, I cast on a quick project, a headband with my hands. But oh, that is so lovely. So many people are doing spinning and I love to see it. It's so cool. That is definitely something that I have on my to learn list soon as I can find the time to prioritize it, really. Let's see. Lisa says I'm crocheting a summer hat. That is lovely. Which reminds me of like in the north, where you know it's the north because people have their summer mittens and their summer hats and their summer wool wear, which other people find confusing, and it's quite fun. Kerry is working on a cabled Afghan 20 by 12 inch squares knit over a year, each square a different pattern. Oh wow, that sounds excellent. Like an excellent pastime to fill many mornings and evenings and time off to be doing different things. Ooh. But yeah, I really want to get into spinning, and I can never quite decide if I want to learn to spin thin or I want to learn to spin thick first. Because if I spin thick and consistent, I can do needle binding with it. And if I spin thin and consistent, I can make things like this, like make nice shawls, because this is pretty much the thinnest I can get in pure local wool. I can get thinner, but it'll be silk and imported, or, you know, synthetics, and I would rather just have the wool, but I can't get it any thinner than this. It would be really cool if I could spin thinner and then make even airier and softer shawls in time, but that is still a way away. I know it takes a goodly long time to spin and then knit and then make anything, because these projects are time consuming, isn't it? Lynn says spinning is very relaxing but also very addictive. I expect that it is. It's one of those repetitive, lovely movements where making something out of a pile of wool, I mean, how amazing! How amazing. I mean, textile science and textile world is just so cool. How they manage to make these amazing things from next to nothing. Rita says, hello! Glad to be watching you and thinking about issues that sometimes I don't notice. Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, there are a lot of people, especially in the beginning of learning to knit and sew, that get really scared of making mistakes or doing small discrepancies that no one will really notice. But they see it and they know. And we usually try to tell them that, you know, if people are under your skirt checking if you cast the seams by hand or by machine, they're too close. And if they are supposed to be that close, they probably have other business than checking on your seams, so it's okay. And I know other people have similar things, like if people are 3 yards from you and start studying your seams, then that's... So that might be a little bit ironic, considering that I am currently unpicking work that I had been doing, because it was very clearly asymmetrical and it was bothering me, and sometimes we can do a bit of both. Take one thing at a time, and because there is a balance, I feel, between correcting a mistake that you are like, no, this actually, you can actually see this from afar and this bothers me. I want to give this to a person having fixed this mistake because I noticed that it's there, and I would rather give it to them having at least tried to fix the mistake. I don't think I have the mental fortitude to unpick and redo this section of work more than once, but such as it is, I don't really mind doing this, especially when I can sit here and talk to you and hang out while I am trying to do the thing. Even if I keep giving myself hard work. Sabina says, the problem I have with spinning is that I make yarn much faster than I can use it. Interesting. That is quite fun. I would be afraid that I would work the other way around, that I would want more yarn for my projects faster than I could spin it, especially in the beginning. But I mean, when spinning itself is addictive, I can see how that will happen. And there are so many skilled spinners out there to just make the most amazing... I mean, Evie from Jillian Eve just spins so cool things and so many different things, and just knows intrinsically how and what and when to do things, and I just think that is really amazing to have that kind of tactile and detailed technical knowledge of how the thing works and how to do it. And yeah, it's really impressive. I just love skilled people who are really good at a thing, and it's not about being the best. I don't really care, because I mean, only one person can be the best. I don't really care about that. But being passionate and skilled and happy about making things, if that is digital or, you know, physical, it's just like, if you are passionate about making things, I really find that a lot of fun to talk to people who do that when they have things that they really enjoy. And it's just, we humans need to create. I believe that quite intrinsically, that humans need to create. And yeah, I don't really care how people create, so long as it doesn't hurt themselves or other people, but create things, make things, build things. We are here for such a short, fleeting time that it's nice to leave a little something for later. Come on, little Stitch, I know you're there. Hello. Leia says, you know that problem? So much handspun yarns, no chance to work with it because I want to spin more. That sounds like something I will need to watch out for. What if this turns into just a spinning channel and, you know, answering questions? Because I really enjoy those, but as you can see, this project is far from done, so we will be away from any new videos on that matter. Maybe I'll need to make a small stack of more questions and more research videos, but we will see. All in due time. 1, 2, 3, I can count, I think. And then this one. Jillian is how you found my channel. Interesting. Around the time of the Pup Goes to Weasel bit. Oh, that is so nice. Yeah, that was such a nice project to be working on. It is really nice. We chat from time to time. She's such a sweet human. Where's the stitch? Lynn says the secret is having knitters to gift the yarn to. Ooh, now we're talking. I really love, and I've talked about this before, but I really love like having friends where you just sort of, it's not really a competition, and if it was, it would be a very mild-mannered and good-natured one where you're sort of competing and giving each other more and more awesome things. Like one person will make you something really cool and you want to make them something in return, and it just turns into this wholesome thing where you keep gifting each other things back and forth to give each other joy, and it's a lot of fun. And this is one of those projects. And ironically, the person who gave me this yarn, because it was a large 1 kilo cone, and they had too much yarn because they kept buying more yarn, and they were like, just take it. So and it's a lot of yarn, and I get, you know, you get scared of taking too much from people, but they were adamant. So now I'm sitting here with a lot of yarn, enough to make a shawl certainly, and I thought I would make one and return the favor, you know. Here's your yarn back, but now in the shape of a lovely shawl. I hope they will like it anyway, and there's always the chance that they will find this video and know what I'm up to before I've sent it to them, which hopefully not, but we shall see. Leia says, I need more of those friends. Yeah, I really enjoy those crafty friendships where both are crafters and you can just fill your home with, you know, love, because a lot of crafting is love in tactile form, isn't it? Like someone thought about you and made a thing, and I really love that. I really want a house when I'm old that is just filled with gifts from other people who made me stuff that I love, and hopefully I made them some stuff that they enjoy, and we just all have homes filled with an eclectic assortment of all sorts of wild and wacky crafts that makes us smile and think of the person who spent their own 2 hands making a thing. How lovely would that be if we all had more friends like that? And, you know, gifts were yet again handmade largely, and I mean, I don't really have that problem anymore where I get gifted things I don't really want, because I've sort of told people over the years that I would rather have nothing I don't really need a gift. I find it's more than enough to just spend time together. And if you do, can we just, if you don't know what to get me, can we just exchange, you know, donations to a charitable organization or something like that? Because I really don't need, you know, those gifts that just, you know that this person didn't really know what to get you, but they felt like they needed to get you something, and you end up with those knickknacks that take up space and they didn't really need to be neither bought nor produced. Yeah, I'm not a fan of those gifts. I've gotten better at just giving those away again to charity shops, but I'm not sure they have that much use for them either, because again, they are things that don't really need to be around, but such is the world that we have at the moment, I suppose. Lee says, I did have a go hand spinning when I was young. A really good fiber artist tried to teach me. Would love to try again, but the truth is that there's too many crafts and arts in the world. That is very true, but it's such a good time trying to catch a lot of them. I mean, good friend and I joke that we are not really, like, we are just as much crafters as we are craft accumulators, craft collectors, you know, learning just enough about a craft that you are not, you know, an expert, but just enough that you can get by, and then having your eye caught by something else and, you know, moving on to the next shiny new craft, because it's so much fun learning the different movements and the different thinking and the different way of reading patterns and writing patterns and everything. It's just so much fun to learn different crafts and how very different techniques can make very similar things. I mean, knitting, crocheting, knoll binding can all make flexible fabric garments in varying ways, and some might argue that we don't need all of them, but I think the world would be a bit poorer if we didn't have that large eclectic variation of different skills to have fun with. And I mean, I'm just mentioning the ones that I'm familiar with, and there are so much more around the world that are cool and awesome and that I would love to learn about in various ways and don't yet, but there's so many cool ways to make things and so many cool ways to, you know, live and exist and be symbiotic with the planet that we share, and yeah, just so many cool things. Lynn says, snacks are a good gift option if the person isn't against it. They don't take up space long term and you can tailor it to their taste. A very good point. Food gifts are excellent. I am also a very big fan of food gifts. For the reason that you mentioned, that, you know, you can think about the person and what they like, but also it can be eaten and then you get it out of the house so it doesn't just accumulate on the shelf. But food gifts are a lot of fun. I don't really have anything that I make every year and give away as gifts, because again, people's tastes are so different that it might not be that something that one person enjoys is going to be something that another person enjoys as well. But I do make, there's a plant in Norway that is called meadowsweet. I don't know, it doesn't exist in the US, because I've looked for it when I've tried to talk to friends in the US about it, and I'm sorry, it does not exist in the US, so you wouldn't be able to find it. But it's a plant that the Vikings used to both disinfect pots that were used to make mead and also to wash in general. It's like this nice spicy herbal aroma, and I really like it. And we boil it down in summer. I go picking and fine, and we boil it with sugar and lemon, and make a little, I think it's called a cordial, like a squash type thing that you dilute with water and with ice cubes in the heat of summer. It's not, even though there's sugar and lemon in it, it is not primarily sweet. It's primarily like herbal and spiced, a little bit like not mulled wine, because there's no red wine, but like a little bit of those notes, you know, cardamom and cinnamon and those warm spices that are very nice in Christmas. And just having that in a glass with some nice ice cubes in summer is really, really nice and refreshing. So I try to make a batch every year and have it in house, because spouse is very, very, very fond of it, and it isn't really something that you buy, so making it ourselves it is. What am I doing? It's going to be a mess when I try to unravel it, isn't it? It will. Catherine says, I'm very glad we have different crafts. Knitting makes no sense to me, but crochet is perfect. Yeah, exactly. Different brains are gonna enjoy different crafts in different ways. And I mean, culturally and historically and everything, how much poorer would the world be if we just had one, you know, make things out of yarn without weaving craft? That doesn't make any sense to me. And it's just nice to have people be creative in different ways. And it all takes long, so it's nice to at least try to do something we enjoy. Catherine says hello, so hello right back. Merry time of day. I am fighting with a shawl where I made a mistake. Well, I made several mistakes really, because I was filming and focusing more on trying to get a good angle than what I was doing, so I ended up messing up a little bit, and it's so asymmetrical that I do want to unpick it and redo it, especially because it's a gift for a friend, so I wanted to make sure that it was as good as I can make it, especially, you know, after you notice a mistake, you can't unnotice it, and when it's a big enough mistake, it's like, yeah, I should probably do something about that, shouldn't I? Tiffany says, it's sweet violet season in the US. I always make syrup from them. Oh, lovely. Yeah, it's probably a very similar process. I've heard about people making these syrups and cordials from different flowers, and a lot of flowers can be used for this and have very different flavors, and they're very similar in process. It's very nice. They're usually very light and refreshing, and I always make sure to never pick, you know, more than half of what I find, and make sure that there's a good solid stock before I start picking anything, because we do want there to be more than enough for bees and other pollinators. I wonder what other sort of cordials and syrups people make. I know that a lot of the ones, I think all of the ones that I've seen usually have an aspect of lemon in them to make them a little more tart. And they can be a bit bitter without it, but still I find these seasonal recipes to be a lot of fun. I'm always amazed at how. Let's see if I can show her to you. If you move this one, and I think we move. Is it this one? I'm professional. Come on, there we go. Look at her. Hey, baby. It's very often a case when she's on my lap that if she's on my lap and I start talking or start disturbing her, she will leave. But if I'm doing the thing and talking when she arrives, she's like, oh well, that is fine, I guess. But she is quite a patient madam. And even the littlest one is snoozing over on the work table, but that is a bit far away. So they are I was worried that we were going to have a rerun of a previous live where Embla was running around with her toy in her mouth and just asking for playtime all of the time. And it was so loud that people were saying that people's pets were coming over to see what was wrong, who was the cat, what was going on, you know. Why is this creature meowing? So there were several people who had to like watch the live later because their cat was snoozing on their lap and they were really distracted by Embla running around demanding playtime, which is adorable and cute at the same time, but maybe not the most helpful, you know? But still very adorable, even if I do feel bad that I can't play with her every moment that she asks, because we do need to do other things as well. Carrie says that her mother makes lemon and orange cordial. The oranges are not the sweet kind. Ooh, that sounds really refreshing as well. There are so many more fruits and citruses and different things than what is generally available in the big grocery stores because they don't travel well or they're not as commercially viable, and there's so many cool local foods that we don't get that I would love to learn more about and hear more about, because it's just so cool. So many cool foods that it would be nice to preserve and have fun with and enjoy. Your feline companions are so lovely. It's so much fun to watch them help. I am glad you think so. My workroom has, like, the table in the workroom is the one place where they are allowed on the table, and they use it for all it's worth. Often they run around the entirety of the workroom and make havoc. The worst is when they are fighting and like run around and have zoomies, and suddenly both of them are on the work table and everything just flies everywhere. And you're laughing, but you're also a bit exasperated because, you know, maybe don't fight on top of my work table, but the work table is also allowed, so I guess that is a natural consequence. Marianne says, your cat is purring against me too. She's loud. Oh, it is the best noise though. It is totally the best noise. You know, happy cat. It's just so lovely. Tiffany asks if I've ever tried a pawpaw fruit. No, being in Europe, we don't have access to those, even though they're in the papaya. Is it papaya or mango? I think it's papaya, like family, where they are like the only tropical tree that exists in a non-tropical region, which is super cool. I've heard about them, but I've never tried them, since I understand that they don't travel well, and I've never been to the US, and that's the only place they grow, as far as I'm aware. But they seem really cool. That seems a really cool thing to run around foraging. And Len says your cat barely plays at all. It's very strange. That is quite interesting, because Enya, our first madam that we adopted her as an old lady, so we knew she wasn't going to be with us, you know, forever. But my heart just broke seeing this poor old lady back at the shelter because her owner had to go to an elderly care home and no one could care for her, and that is no way for an old lady to retire, you know. So we took her in, and she's such a sweet baby. And she was also advertised as not playing and not being very playful, but she was a lot more playful than advertised. She was just a little bit lazy about it. I mean, she was an old lady. She's allowed to have her special interests, but the first thing we needed to do was like make a toy out of a piece of cork and a string, because when she came out of her shell eventually, She was so much more playful than they had said she was, and it was so sweet to see that. It was so much fun. She was such a sweet lady. Dell says, I make elderflower cordial because I love it because it's so refreshing. But it's so expensive to buy an organic one in the shops. Yeah, I hear you on that. Like, occasionally I've seen meadowsweet syrup or cordial at farmer's market in small quantities, but yeah, it's, since I know how to make it and I don't mind, it's quite an enjoyable process. Although sometimes, you know, bottling and steaming and canning things in the heat of July, in the heat of summer, and you're standing there with steaming pots and pans, can be can be a bit warm. But I still quite enjoy it. But yeah, it can be quite expensive, but I don't mind. Like, it is a lot of work. That is fair. Tiffany says, yes, as soon as they ripen you have to eat them. Yeah, that'll be why they're hard to access. Is that the one that people refer to as the custard fruit? Like it tastes like custard? Or is that a different one? I can't remember. There are so many cool fruits that I haven't tasted because I haven't been to the place where they... I heard they are, like, there was someone who told me about red bananas as well, that are also the kind of... It doesn't travel well because they just go bad quite fast. But they apparently have the same... Like, the reason they're red is the same color and also flavorings that is in raspberries. So they taste like a mixture of bananas and raspberries. Apparently, I have never actually tried them myself. I've just heard people tell stories about them, which is super, super fascinating. Which is same with the red oranges when they are in season. I mean, right around February, March. So they also have the reason they are orange. I think it's the same reason that the raspberry, like the same molecule as the raspberry has in the orange. So it tastes like a mixture between orange and raspberries. I'm very fond of red oranges. I think they are super nice. And I always enjoy when they come in season so I can enjoy a couple. And Lee asks, do anyone know if sambuca and elderflower are the same thing? We use sambuca cordial in Italy. I am not sure. I would have to go look up the Latin name for said thing. That is always what we used to do when I was working in the university gardens. You know, we were working with maintaining the garden grounds as a summer job. And there were so many people from all over the world with all sorts of different languages, and plants and flowers and animals especially is... The names are so local, you can't just assume that it'll translate. If you just translate it directly, it almost never works. So what we would do was that we would usually find the Latin word for a thing and we would communicate like that, because then someone could pick up their phone and Google the Latin and find it in their language, and we could talk to them about it, and that became our way around the language barrier, which was a lot of fun, learning a lot of Latin at the same time, and then talking to the botanists who were working in the botanical garden, and they have a lot of interns and like exchanges that go on throughout the summer, so you would always meet a lot of new fun people, and it was one of the best jobs I ever did. I did it repeatedly over several summers. It was such a good team. They were so nice, and you know, you were outside in the sun, which I can't really do that much anymore because the sun makes me sick, but they were so nice. Our boss was lovely. She was always like making things for us. She used to have her own business and she was used to being able to give people bonuses, but when she stopped having her business and got employed by the university instead, as she got a little bit older, she couldn't give bonuses anymore, and that bothered her. So instead she would like do a summer party once a year, and we would go on a field trip, which was, you know, you would bring the botanists and we would walk and look for plants and then have a barbecue, and it was lovely. It was so much fun. to do those things and learn about botany along the way. And yeah, the way we figured out how to communicate each other when we didn't know what a flower was called was just, you know, to figure out what it was called in Latin. And I still do that today. Like if I wonder what a flower or something is called in English, I will look it up on the Norwegian Wikipedia and I will find the right name. And I will copy paste the Latin and I will just paste that into the English Wikipedia and figure it out that way. It's a bit roundabout, but it does work, sorta. Sidel says, elderflower isn't a chore to make by the sound of it. I just make mine a cafeteria and have it freshish. Oh, that is very nice. Yeah, I try to make the meadowsweet. I do bottle it properly and boil it down with sugar and lemon, just because my spouse is so very, very fond of it, so I make a larger amount. I try to make around 10 liters if I can find enough without stealing from the bees too much. So it's so that he can have, you know, all the way from July, which is when they usually ripen, and they usually last until about Christmas. This time it has actually lasted until this summer, which is the first time ever it has lasted that long before we're out. And yeah, but usually it's because we will run out, and I try to make so that they have a stash for a while. Which is sweet. Tiffany says, yes, the flavor is kind of like banana plus mildly citrus. Oh, that sounds lovely. I'm really curious about that now. It would be nice to try it at one point, but I'm also happy to stay within my own geo-region and not fly too much, because that is adding to everything, isn't it? Where are we? Here. Cecil says Sambuca is the Latin name. Yeah, that makes sense. I hadn't gone and checked, but that is often the case. Where are we? Sometimes just changing the language when you're on the first page or two. Yeah, sometimes it does. It used to be easier. Like you used to have the languages on the sidebar, but I think I haven't found that recently, or maybe I've just been doing it on my phone. But yeah, it does. It does work. It's an excellent way of trying to figure out. But of course, the only problem that I have with it is that I don't feel confident that I have found the right words. I will be a little bit insecure that I've found the right one, because maybe the colloquial term for something is slightly different, but you know, we do the best we can with the tools that we have, trying to communicate with each other. Let's see. There. Okay. I think that is... I don't feel confident that all of the stitches are perfectly in the right row, but at least we now have our new friend inserted into mostly stitches in the same region. I do have to unpick this anyway, so I would have to do this at some point anyways. If I have to reknit something, that'll just have to be what it is. So now comes the scary part. We have, this is where we were, and then this is where we're gonna unpick it down to, which is, oh, it's so much. It's so much work. No. So I'm just gonna have to pull out the top cable and start unwinding. Wish me luck. Without losing our little stitch markers. There's one. There's my books. Lee says, oh, I'm talking about Sambucus nigra. I see. We'll try finding the English. Yes, that helps so much. That's one, like, that is one way Latin is super, super helpful, that it is universal across the world, so you can actually figure out what plant someone is talking about and figure it out that way, and then everyone gets to learn something, which I am a fan of. I'm sorry that I keep hitting my microphone. I think that is not my intention. Let's see. Yes, people are confirming that it is the black-berried elder, which is edible. There's another sambucus with red berries, which is poisonous. Yes, there is. And if I remember right, that is also the one that is invasive in Norway and wreaking havoc and being a bit rude, a bit mischievous. But I'm not quite sure. Eki says there are so many wild, mismatched plant and animal names. In Japanese, guinea pigs are called marmots, an entirely different animal. Yes. You can never translate something directly. Like recently in the Discord I was talking about spring signs and how I had just seen, let's see, what was the English that I found? I think they're called the colt's foot. It's a tiny little yellow flower. It looks a little bit, I always thought they looked a little bit like dandelions, but just a tiny version. And they're called tussilago farfara, which is something that we like to teach children when they are giving them one Latin name, because tussi is the Norwegian word for Eeyore in Winnie the Pooh. And so tussilago farfara is one of the Latin names that we teach children because it's easy for them to learn and it's fun for them to say. But in Norwegian, colt's foot is called hestehov, which means horse hoof, if I translate it directly, which has maybe it has something to do with colt's foot. I suppose colts could be a kind of horse, but it's not immediately obvious, I don't think. Lee says, oh, in Norway we say svarthyll. Yes. And they can be eaten. I think we checked recently, and I think there was some talk that when they use a specific word in ingredients for juices and stuff, they're actually using elderberries and other similar things, which can be a bit confusing when they are using different names. Sister says, having a garden, I have learned to embrace Latin. Yeah, I can understand that. It is very useful when communicating with fellow gardeners. Let's see, that is one cable out of the way. Gosh, I'm terrified that I'm going to undo all of my work and have to start over. This is a full week's worth of knitting, and I might just have ruined all of it. I hope not. But I suppose those are the risks that we run sometimes. But yeah, I enjoy Latin. It can be a lot of fun to talk to others and learn new things together because you have a Latin. And sometimes, like when I'm being especially studious, I want to learn some of the Latin origins and meanings of things, which means that you can learn more about the plant by just knowing its Latin name. And also, surprisingly, you can make a lot of guesswork at quizzes and stuff, because they usually make some sort of sense. Lily and Del both say colt is a horse. It is? Yeah, that is cool. It's a young male horse under 4 years. That is cool. So in that case, the English name and the Norwegian name were actually kind of similar. Although ours is just, generic horse's hoof. And the, I guess, English term is that it is a proper specific age for a horse, which is quite cool. So in that case, they were similar. But a lot of the time, I find that they are not necessarily the same. But that is cool to find one where it actually matches up. Oops. Try not to be too noisy in your... It's difficult to remember when you're wearing a microphone, because when you're talking with friends, doing things close to your chest isn't really as disruptive as it is for you. Let's see, Marianne says, oh, it's sureau in French. It's also used for jam and alcohol here, and syrup. Oh, that is lovely. Yeah, it's very popular. Elderflowers and elderberries is so popular for a lot of different things. I find that I do prefer the berries. Personally, I have tried elderflower cordials and syrups, and I get this weird association that I am drinking a perfume because it's so floral. I get the same with very floral teas, which I know a lot of people enjoy, and I get this weird sort of mismatch in my head that, I'm not sure I'm supposed to be drinking this, but I really love, fruity teas and like sort of minty and herby teas of all different kinds. I think they are so lovely. But yeah, I know it's a really popular flavoring for a lot of things. What else do we have? I know a lot of people make a lot of cool stuff from dandelions, like roots for the coffee replacement and syrups and stuff. Len says hard to find in big shops though. Yeah, it can be. I mean, a lot of those things, if they are based on either foraging or things that have small harvests that are hard to make into big commercial businesses, then I guess it would be hard to find them in the shops beyond the usual things that we can access, like carrots and potatoes and apples and oranges and those basic that have been more commercial and easier to travel the world and all those kinds of things. Cecil says, I tried batter and deep fried elderflowers once, but the family didn't like them better. I am the only one who liked the taste. That is a shame. Sometimes this happens, that you are the only one to do an experiment and then I don't really feel motivated to keep doing it. It's so much easier when someone really likes a thing and we can't get it, then I'm really motivated to make it. But yeah, if I'm the only one who likes it, I'm generally not too motivated to do it. Lynn said courgette and zucchini flowers are also amazing as fruit. I have heard that. I really want to get a garden at some point. We have a little bit of garden where we rent now, but I don't really like the landlord is really nice and I don't want to give them more work when we move because they are right next door and it's all grass apart from a small flower bed by our entrance. And we planted a few herbs. What is it? I call it a grass onion of all things. Oh god, what is it? Chives. Chives is what they're called. Thank you, brain. We have some chive, we have some thyme. I think the last one is oregano. I would have to smell it to know. Yeah, it must be oregano because the leaves are so small. It's not a basil, they don't generally survive in Norway. But yeah, we have a couple and they have survived. I checked, they have just started blooming for the year, so they did survive the winter, which they don't always do. I did plant a lavender too for the bees and the lovely scent, but they do not really survive here. They are not a perennial unless you have a very warm and very sheltered garden or spot for them. But I would like to get better at gardening at one point, but it's one more thing to do, isn't it? I know a lot of people enjoy it a lot. My grandmother was an avid gardener. She had so many lovely roses and lilies and always an abundance of tomatoes and cucumbers in her greenhouse, and so nice to watch things grow, isn't it? See, Marianne says dandelion salad is great, but you have to forage them. You don't find them in the store. That is true, yeah. They wouldn't sell dandelions here either, but they're generally not very hard to find, and if you pick them before people start mowing the lawn, you don't get the problem with a lot of gases and stuff from the lawnmowers in them either. And they're prolific and people don't generally mind that you forage for them. Although I will say rhubarb used to be a part of the world of rhubarb used to be a plant that if you had someone who had them in their garden or you had them in their garden, that was how you would get it. Like if you had an elderly relative or someone with a big garden, they would usually have a rhubarb or couple. And you didn't used to get them in the store, but in the last few years I have seen them more and more in the stores in springtime, where you can actually buy stalks from the store, which seems almost strange to find this food that you didn't used to see them. The same with a lot of berries. I mean, red currants and black currants and a lot of those traditional berry bushes in Norway. For a long time you would have red currants, black currants, and you would also have, what are the last one? Gooseberries of different colors. Gooseberries are lovely. And you wouldn't find them in the store. It would be another case of if you have them in your garden or someone you know has them in their garden, you get to have them fresh, and if not, then you get the jams, because the jams were always available. Let's see. Cecil says, west coast of Norway. Looks like my lavender maybe survived. Ooh, interesting. I mean, I didn't give my lavender, to be fair, I didn't give my lavender any help. I didn't cover her up with wood chips or anything like that to cover her from the cold. And especially here, we can get some fierce winds, which will dry out the plant. So I could have, if I had been more fierce in my protection of her, I could have, you know, protected her a little bit better and seen if she would have survived that way. But maybe eventually. I am excited about the chives though. Spouse does like chives in their scrambled eggs, and it's so nice to just be able to go out with the scissor and buy them fresh. Messenbear says, can I just say that I love the vibe here? It's refreshing to find a cozy place on the internet to participate in. Ah, thank you. I am glad you find it so. I mean, I feel like I'm still finding my feet in terms of lives and talking to you in a uncurated and unscripted way, but we are all practicing together here. I hope people find it refreshing. I hope people find it chill. I mean, sometimes we want more lively entertainment, but sometimes I just want, company. I mean, that is one of the reasons I would keep putting Victorian Farm, Edwardian Farm, Tudor Farm, you know, those BBC Farm series, just on repeat, because I noticed that I didn't really enjoy so a lot of the time I'm not in the mood to watch a drama or a movie with, you know, a lot of emotional highs and lows, and I end up feeling, with some movies, almost stressed, like emotionally, that I'm up here when I would rather just be chilling and just have a companionable talking. And so for a long time I felt like I only had Victorian Farm and Edwardian Farm and Tudor Farm, and they would go and repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat, because there was so little other cozy, low drama content that was just there to keep you company as you were, you know, knitting or crocheting or just hanging out, just enjoying a cup of tea. And maybe this form of live content can be a little bit like that, I hope, like just chill out content. It's not supposed to be larger than life or very dramatic or exceptionally clever. It's like company content, you know, a friend to hang out with and have a cup of tea with, and then we all return to our various lives and chores and obligations, but for a moment we can just be friends, you know, online and just hang out. At least I hope so. You know, we'll get there. With all my ums and ahs and likes and all of the helping words that, oh, it feels like I've been pulling this up together. Knitting minute by minute, yeah. I don't know if other people outside of Norway have that reference, but oh god, there's still so much to go. I haven't unpicked much, have I? Okay, we are still doing it. Yeah, in Norway there was a period of time where there was a lot of popularity around really slow television. So you would have some of the train lines, you know, just have a camera at the front of the train and you just got train minute by minute. I don't remember what all of them were. Was one just a fireplace? But they got really popular. People like fireplaces. Another one was the ferry, wasn't it? The ferry that goes all the way from the south of Norway all the way to the north, minute by minute. And there were a couple of other ones too. They just called them slow TV, I think. And this is a similar concept, you know, slow TV. We don't have a big dramatic change of emotions and plot line, and it doesn't all have to have all of those exciting storytelling beats that I enjoy and I like to learn, and I enjoy them in books and in good movies and those things. It's just that sometimes I feel like they get a bit strong. Like I don't need all my period drama to have infidelity and cheating and murder and betrayal and scandal, and sometimes I just want chill. Like, it was this joke that I saw online a while back that people wanted like a Hobbit sort of mockumentary, or just sort of Hobbit day by day, you know, as if you're a documentary crew just following hobbits around Hobbiton and seeing what they do for their daily lives, and just again that kind of cozy, we are just hanging out content. Like, there's a little bit of drama, there's a little bit of story and intrigue, but it isn't necessarily life changing. Maybe just one of the kids ran off with your potatoes or mushrooms or whatever, you know. It's just chill. It doesn't have to be larger than life all the time. Lynn says, I like to watch the Japanese channels dedicated to ferries and trains for that. Very chill. Oh yeah. There are so many Japanese channels that just give me, in the best of ways, you know, camera skills envy. My favorite for that is Peaceful Cuisine. I don't know if I can find this for you so I can share, because they are amazing. They are so cool. And Ryoya has some amazing filming skills. Like, there's never any talking in the videos. They're just music, they're just chill. Let's see. Let's click no wait, I don't have to click a no music one, because I can just copy it like this without giving you the noise. Let's see. We can link it like that, because I'm allowed to post links. Haha. And I mean, I just get so lost in their stories, even though there is very little storytelling. You know, it is just them showing us what they're making, how they're making it, the ingredients, but just those filming skills, those color skills, those everything, they're just chef's kiss. They're so amazing. Like, I get mesmerized, I just get lost watching the videos because they're so beautiful, they're so pretty. Oh, a moment, I noticed that I need more tea, so I'm just gonna mute myself for a moment. I am not very clever. I had in fact a half full cup of tea, I just forgot that I had refilled it earlier. Oh well. Tiffany says, I love that we can use technology to gather together from all over the world and share experiences and ideas in an atmosphere that is not rushed. I couldn't agree more. There are a lot of problems with you know, internet and these things, but I think that coming together and sharing experiences from all over the world at you know, as it's happening, right, as it is happening, is so good. It's such a good thing, you know, seeing that other people feel like you, other people have similar struggles, where previously you might be the only one in your village or small town that struggle with certain things, whereas now we can find communities online and find support and find help and find advice and so many things. So I think that is like the biggest thing about the internet as an invention, is, you know, that connectivity, that talking to each other, where previously you would have to know someone to be able to send a letter that would take weeks and sometimes months to get there, whereas now we can just chat like this without anything in between. That is so mind-blowing to me. I mean, having people from all over the world just being able to chat in a chat room like this, I mean, even without me doing a live, just having the chat on the right hand side, like, how crazy is that when you think about it? I will sometimes stop and think about how crazy that is, and it's so cool. It's that is, I think, the biggest thing we've gotten from the internet is that connectivity between humans that I find really, really nice. Why is my glasses keep finding the window? It's because there's a small window over there and it's currently sunset, but let's see. Yeah, Lynn says sometimes they upload videos, but really it's a very nice channel. Yeah, I agree. Chocolate Cacao is a really good one too, but he hasn't uploaded in a while. Ooh, I would have to check that out. Very cozy and satisfying sounds of chocolate and cooking. That does sound lovely. I love that kind of thing. It's so nice. Yeah, in Arikun, being able to lean into one's niche interest is really amazing. I agree. I mean, imagine before where you were the only one who was into, I mean, model trains or knitting or what have you, and blacksmithing, and suddenly you have a whole community of stuff. I have a friend who is an excellent cobbler, like master cobbler. This person is the best I have. I mean, I only send my shoes to him because why would I send them anyone else? The problem is, of course, that he is so good that he's getting recognized by everyone because he's amazing. So his wait lists are getting longer and longer, despite him taking on apprentices. But he is so good. And it used to be that when you are ambitious and you try to be the best, not just average, it can be very difficult to find people to talk to. And certainly the other cobblers in that particular town where they apprenticed and where they work, they were good enough cobblers. They were good cobblers, but not on my friend's level. My friend is just his, taste for excellence and desire to do good by the customer and do things right and not do things fast. It's just unparalleled. And they have this, I think it's a Facebook group, but anyway, they have this community that is only cobblers, no customers, only professional cobblers that own their own shop, or they don't have to own their own shops, but they have to, be practicing as cobblers, repairing shoes and that kind of thing, and building work. And they exchange experiences, they exchange pictures showing, the issue with the shoe, what they did to solve it, and how they solved it, and they share, knowledge and experience and help each other improve. And that is such an amazing thing that couldn't have existed without the internet. Then you would just have to, struggle along on your own, hopefully sometimes with the help of books, but not this kind of, we can just collectively share experience like that, which I think is really, really cool, both in terms of niche interests and community and, supporting each other and all of the things. Lynn says L'Essentiel is a similar, very relaxing and pretty baking channel, if that's of interest. Everything is of interest. I do love food. Like before I decided to try to do a crafting channel, I dabbled with, a food blog and things like that. So I enjoy food a bit. I enjoy baking and cooking, and especially the frugal side of it, like trying to figure out a way to use all of it. When we're having oranges, we're just peeling them first with a potato peeler and sugaring or candying those peels to use either as snacks or in cakes. I'm not always, I'm nowhere near perfect at it. Sometimes we don't have the spoons to do it and they go in the composting, but it's a lot of fun to try to find those ways when we can. Inarikun says, and also being able to raise one's skill ceiling, because being sent to the communities is something I will always be grateful for. It makes me wonder where creatives will take their creations. Yes, very much so. In the Discord that we made for this kind of creative sharing, and right now it's mostly the things that I am have some experience with and I'm interested in, like knitting and crocheting and sewing and embroidery and what have you. But I just want people to create. I just want it to be a creative space where people share their creations. I am no stranger to, eventually, if there is enough interest, that people can have discussions, opening it up to blacksmithing and woodworking, cooking and gardening and what have you, like creatives of all kinds. I just want people to create things and find something that they enjoy creating and feel that joy of having made something. And I do think there is something to the hand to brain connection of making something physically, but I'm not in any way against, like, maybe we could also have a digital arts at some point where, you know, people do digital art or game design, video editing. All of this is creative work, writing. It's all of it is creative. There's so much work that has so much more creativity than people give it credit for. And yeah, I just want people to make things. Making all sorts of things, I think, is a lot of fun. Oh, you are so cute. You're so cute. I don't know. Sometimes I wonder how the felines breathe, because they just, do you have that where they just smoosh their face like up against your stomach or your arm or something, and just their face is entirely squished, and you're like, how can you breathe? I can tell that you have no problem breathing, but how? How are you breathing? Oh, so many hours of work, but at least I have you for company, because this is a bit demotivating to do just quietly. This is, yeah, where I like to have a podcast or a book or another live or something just going in the background, keeping me company, because I have actually been enjoying some lives recently, and it's that companionship I find that I enjoy, because sometimes I will have heard the conversations before, I will have heard the arguments before, but there's something about the companionship in helping. Does everyone here come from the Discord? Do you know about the Discord? Because it's open to everyone. Let's see if I can grab it and just share it, just because I can. And I'm hoping, it's still very fresh, it's still very new, but I'm hoping that in time it will grow to be a place where people can be creative and share their creativity and just hang out, support each other, have a good time. Let's see if I can multitask. I am not very good at that. Let's see. No, that is the wrong one. There you go. So if someone isn't there already having a good time, then you are welcome. I am of course, I'm also new to the whole, you know, moderating a community and trying to make it a welcoming and open space. So we are all learning these skills together, but I have hopes, although I'm also terrified of, you know, making a mistake and suddenly everything imploding and before you know it. But those large anxiety fears are usually a bit too large, aren't they? I find that although I have, you know, a lot of underlying anxiety just chilling out in the back of my head most of the time, I've just learned to accept that that is how it is, and I just have to do things scared if I am to do it at all. And I don't know if this is the way for everyone to do it, but I find that I can usually do the thing anyway if I want to do it enough, because usually I just have to do it anyway. But often the anxiety is a little bit larger than the worst case scenario, you know? If things are going to go wrong, they usually don't go wrong quite as spectacularly as you imagine they would. So hopefully things won't entirely explode. I'm sure at some point there will be some sort of drama or something we will need to figure out, but hopefully we can talk about it and solve it. And I am not perfect. I might make decisions that you don't necessarily agree with, and you're always welcome to talk to me about those things. I mean, to the best of time that I can respond to it, but I don't think the point of a community is to agree all the time. We are allowed to disagree, we are allowed to share our opinions, so long as we do so respectfully, without questioning anyone else's humanity, because everyone is just trying to exist in the same space, and we can disagree without not being, not hanging out. That is fine. I don't expect everyone to be agreeing with me all the time. That would be really weird. That would be quite creepy. So I think disagreements can be... Oh no, she's dreaming. She's doing the twitchy thing with the dreaming. It is the most adorable when they start twitching like that. Lily says, I think you're doing a great job with the Discord. Thank you. I'm really happy that you think so. I accidentally unpulled my center thread. That'll have to go back in later. But I hope so. I hope so, in time. Madam Snoozy Pants. But yeah, both cats are sleeping in my workroom at the moment, which is a rare luxury. Why is there something in my eyes? Tiffany doing a project check-in. Go for it. Let's see. You're working on... I'm felting? An Icelandic fleece to use in a cape. Ooh. That sounds lovely. Yeah, felting. Yeah, sorry. I read it before you could correct yourself. That sounds lovely. I have bought some yarn. Or no, some fleece. With the intent of spinning things. And maybe felting things in time. And it's just sitting in my closet waiting to be used, and making me feel guilty that I haven't used it yet. But so many projects, so little time. Never enough time in the day for all the projects that I want to make. Let's see. Cecil says, I have a linen shirtwaist where I sewed the French seams the wrong way. Whoop. And it ended in the naughty bin for 6 months, finally progressing again. Aw, that is... Yeah, sometimes that happens. Sometimes something just needs to rest for a little bit before we can start it again. I usually find that if I make a mistake and I see it straight away, I want to fix it straight away, but then I usually don't want to work on the project for the rest of the day. I'll need a little bit of a break, a little bit of distance, and then get back into it. But I try to fix it. But I mean, I should have just corrected this mistake straight away. And somehow I tried to convince myself that it was fine, I wouldn't be that bothered by it, but I was. I was bothered by it. I couldn't help it. It was so uneven, it was so asymmetrical. I should have known. Let's see, Lily is swatching some linen yarn for a knitted top with violet details. Oh, that is lovely. I have some linen yarn and linen cotton mix that I hope to make into some summer stuff, maybe summer socks and other things, but... Lynn says, I'm between projects unless you count the long-term works in project. We always count a little bit of everything, don't we? Everything counts. Oh, not done yet. Oh, I think something happened. Madam left us. Oh, pardon me. My nose is being a little bit runny. Echidnas is saying, I'm eating peanut butter while staring into the middle distance. We all need to do that once in a while, unless you're allergic to peanuts, in which case please don't have peanut butter. But you can still stare into the middle distance, that is still... especially if accompanied by some sort of thought process, or just zoning out in general and having a good time. Carrie says it's midnight here. Oh, goodness. That is... What time is it now? 6:30, okay. But it was nice hanging out with you so far, at least. Inari-kun says, definitely agree on breaks? Yes, breaks are important. Breaks for everyone. Projects are nice, but so are breaks sometimes too. And thinking about thinking about things. Lynn says, actually no, I have a big and complex illustration to finish. Ooh, that sounds cool. It sounds lovely. Is it digital or traditional? But I love both. There are so many talented artists out there. I had some fun with, you know, pencil and stuff when I was younger, but I found that even though I bought a tablet, I struggled with the traditional to digital transition and never quite could crack the code. Although my friend Kaylee has been showing me a few ways, and I feel like I've been making a little bit of progress in getting a little bit more digital over time. And I'm having fun making little emojis for the Discord, which seems like a very innocent little thing because it's so tiny. So you can't put too many details in, and also details don't show too bad. It's been a good practice. Let's see. Tiffany says sometimes we just need to disassociate with company. Yeah, that is very cool. Oh, traditional alcohol markers and ink pens. Ooh, that is so cool. There's so many cool things to do. I have been really loving. Oh, what was that artist? I think it was over on TikTok, who would do detailed, I think watercolor or ink, animal illustrations of especially endangered animals, and then they would emboss. What is it called, embossing? They would cover the background in like a specific shape, like a round or a diamond, with gold leaf, and they were so striking and so beautiful, and just artists are amazing. So many talented artists out there. I could never, but they're so good, so good. Lee says, I always have a lot of projects going on: pastel painting, lino printing, crochet, and knitting. That is very nice. I find that I want to have more projects going, because I want to have like some faster projects and some longer projects going in the background. Like this one, this shawl was meant to be a background project, but then I pushed it because I wanted to finish it, and I probably worked a little bit too much on it because I wanted to see how long it could take me if I could do it. But yeah, it's gonna be a while to get it finished, so I should probably start a shorter projects so I have something to make into a video in a shorter interim, because this is going to take a bit longer, and I don't need to film nearly half of it, because once you reach a certain size, it takes you several hours just to do teeny tiny progression. So you can definitely be working on that in the evenings after a work day of doing other things. So I'll probably be pondering upon that tomorrow when the work week starts anew. But yeah, I like to do a lot of different crafts, but I don't always have a lot of different crafts going with different projects at the same time, although I want to have a little bit more diversity in my feed. I'm noticing that you can't really see what I'm doing, can you? Me doing the excellent choice of having a black sweater and a black ball of yarn. The video is going to be equally all vibes. Can't see anything. Because trying to film knitting in black yarn it's just a black hole, isn't it? And I was almost asking myself, maybe I shouldn't do this video at all. Maybe I should just do it in the evenings just for me, because you aren't going to be able to see anything. It's just a black hole with vibes around it. But then I thought to myself, yes, but your cats are black, so the voids are vibe, so we're gonna see if we can make it work anyway. I'm sorry, you all have to experience all my various experiments and tryouts and testings and trials and fun little bits in between. Sensible, undyed linen project where you can actually see what I'm doing. No details, only vibes. Lucy says, love your channel, interesting and calming. Thank you. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here. Because I'm trying to make a living doing this thing that is only possible because of you. Because of you watching the videos and watching me do stuff and sharing the vibes and being here with me. I mean, it wouldn't be possible without you. And look at that. We have reached the old stick and we are in the middle of it, so we definitely have some work to do figuring out where we actually are. But that is okay. We are having some progress. Lynn says, but does it matter when the vibes are this good? Let's hope so. Let's see. Oh, it barely fits. Tiffany says, no worries, we're here for the companies anyway. I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. Like that is my hope. No. We're gonna have to unpick a little bit more, but that is okay, because we have significantly less unpicking to do after struggling to get this cable in than we would have otherwise had, so I am happy with that. I am happy with the level of not having to do this one line by one line that I would have had to otherwise. Valerie says, black hole with vibes, would watch. I'm glad you would. Because I think this project is going to be a lot of that. You just, it's like this. I mean, I'm wearing black, knitting black, which is probably a good teachable moment for me. I should not be wearing this black sweater when knitting because you won't be able to see even less of what I am doing. Oh, this feels weird. Unpicking without actually having the relevant stitch. Oop. Behave. Aha. So we shall see how it goes. But one thing at a time. I hope this isn't going to be a trend, because I don't think we should do black holes with vibes as a thing. I don't think a lot of people would find that particularly interesting, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people want that. Just all vibes. No, wait. I'm holding this in the wrong palm, aren't I? That's better. I was wondering why it was so cumbersome to undo the work. But yeah, so that has been my evening, unpicking a lot of work, but life is like that sometimes. We have to take a step back in order to progress forwards. Hopefully I won't be dropping many stitches, but I expect that there will be some that I need to pay attention to. But I hope that everyone is doing well, doing their part and fighting that toxic perfectionism and just doing the thing. And for the record, I don't think this is toxic perfectionism, because it genuinely was a very noticeable lack of symmetry in the middle, and it bothered me. And I know that the person is going to also does love the symmetry and would notice and see that the flowers were askew. So I think it is a worthwhile time well spent to go back and correct it and do the flowers properly. But I also hope that I can get this video out to you soon, although there might be several more lives where I am just working on this one, because it's going to be a pretty long project to make a nice big warm black shawl. Eventually it will be done. Maybe maybe these super cute pumpkin needle holders are actually, what's it called? Not preposition. Gosh, why can't I English today? Premonition? On things to come. Maybe this is actually an October project in disguise. I just didn't realize it at the time. Oh no. I hope not. I don't want it to be until October until this is done. But if it is, then it is what it is. We will do other fun stuff in the interim. Let's say thank you and good night. Good night to you too. This an interesting and fun thing, this time zone malarkey. Lucy says, I have the same wooden knitting bowl, love it, but I recently crocheted a scarf with 4 strands, so I made my own wood bowls out of a cardboard box. Very pleased with the result. Cool. Yeah, this was a gift from my lovely spouse, and I like using it because it's, again, I like using gifts that are useful and beautiful and all the things. But a lot of my friends just use a bowl, just a regular, you know, ceramic bowl, food bowl, baking bowl. They work equally well. You don't need to have a lot of, you know, perfect equipment to get started. You are allowed to just get started from wherever you are, and if you enjoy it, expand as you go. I find that some people will struggle with wanting all the perfect equipment before they start, and then they start a project and they realize they don't actually particularly like the craft, which can be very sad, very depressing. If they've spent all this money on the materials and they didn't actually like doing the thing, I always feel so bad for them. So I always advocate either borrowing, if you can, from a friend, or finding a way to do craft on the cheap in the beginning, especially until you realize whether or not you actually like doing the thing. And then if you know that you like doing the thing, good tools probably are going to make it even more fun, because I do find that a good craft is even more enjoyable with good tools that make the job easier. They don't have to be the most expensive or pretty tools, but like quality tools. Like I splurged on these Knit Pro interchangeable needles because I just fell in love with the rainbow colors on them. I mean, I don't know if this is going to show well on camera. Look at them! They're different colors! I just couldn't resist. I thought they were so cute. So I do have a couple of these, even though I had some old aluminium, you know, wonky old sticky knitting needles of various lengths that I have inherited, but these were so pretty. So I got a couple of cables and a couple of interchangeable needles, and I have been enjoying a lot. They're so smooth and nice, so I feel like it was okay. So I feel like there's a balance between just doing it with what you have and enjoying crafting with a good set of tools. I mean, the first card weaving or tablet weaving that I ever did were with the cardboard of old sketch pad, just the back of that, just cut into pieces and hole punched with my little hole puncher, and that worked perfectly fine until I eventually upgraded many years later. Let's see. Devon says, I have one made out of ceramic, and I am a potter. I love it so much. You actually have? Oh, pottery is so much fun. We used to have one of those spinning, not a spinning wheel, but the spinning tops that you make ceramics when you do it spinning. At junior high we had one, so we could do that for the arts and crafts studies. It's so much fun. Oh, it looks so much fun. The people who do that and manage to get it the same every time is so amazing to watch. It's so cool that they are able to make them in similar size and weight, and skilled people are just the best. They're so amazing. Oh gosh, now I have 2 threads. Oop. Somebody talk about the bowls. The bowls were apparently the thing to talk about. No. Now I have 2 threads to unpick. We are quite offbeat with where we were supposed to go. Whoops. Let's see. The danger is seeing wood carving on YouTube and thinking, I could make a good yarn bowl. Yeah, but we could though. We absolutely could. And I mean, woodworking looks like a lot of fun, especially those medieval stepping lathes where, you know, you have a string around a pole and then it connects to this pedal on the bottom and you just do it yourself entirely. They look so cool. Look so much fun. I mean, they take up so much space, but they look like so much fun. Catherine says, I got a ceramic cauldron from Michael's last year as a yarn bowl. That is cool. Love a good cauldron. We were actually visiting a couple of secondhand shops just last week, and I was looking for good cauldrons to use as, you know, scrap bowls and what have you, but we couldn't find any. We found some tiny ones, but I didn't get those, but we found a lot of other things. But it's a lot of fun stuff to be had around the world. Yeah, May says secondhand stores are great too. Yeah, secondhand stores often have a lot of cool stuff. We found one recently. We were traveling in Sweden a little bit, and we found one that had so much stuff. I was amazed. There were so many fabrics and things, and it was just so much. Like, I found some old curtains that someone had hand crocheted the decorative lace on, and you know, that crocheting was so amazing. That person was so patient doing all of that work. It was wow. And the fabric is so fine and soft and densely woven. You can't find any fabric like that these days. You don't see people weaving that kind of fabric. It's so thin and densely woven at the same time. I just love it. Tiffany says Facebook Marketplace is a great place to find used crafting tools. I believe that. I don't really use Facebook, but I know a lot of people do, especially for those groups, which are really, really great for that. Toria says, yesterday I saw a teapot that was being used as a yarn bowl. Oh, I love that. That's so cute. Teapot, a nice big teapot is perfect as a yarn bowl. And there are always so many teapots in secondhand shops, at least in these parts of the world. There are always so many teapots that people don't want because people just use their kettle or a coffee brewer or whatever. So I find that there are always so many in the secondhand shops. That is an excellent suggestion for a yarn bowl. Surprisingly enthusiastic topic of conversation, yarn bowls. Let's see. I like center pole balls, but only have one nested pinner which has been bust with the same yarn for a while. So recently I've just been knitting directly off the skein. Yeah, I have friends who do that too. I learned that if you have a large cone that is meant for machine knitting and weaving, you shouldn't necessarily hand knit straight off the cone because it might introduce some tension problems, but so long as you block it after, from the people I've been talking to, it isn't actually a problem. Like if there is unresolved tension in the yarn and it might go twisty, you just block it and it's okay. The yarn will soften again. But I don't know, I like balls of yarn because they're fun and they roll all over the place. But I don't really have, I'm not particularly of one mind when it comes to how yarn. I can do center pole, I can do balls like this, I can do from the outside. I do a little bit of everything. I don't find myself particularly religious in either direction. Catherine says, my mom gave me her knitting needles when I started. Now I mostly use interchangeable ones from KnitPicks. Yeah, some of mine are from you know, way back as well, just really old aluminium needles that are not the most comfortable to knit with. They work with, but there are more comfortable options, and that's the kind that I have, and I don't know the sizes of all of them. I could check with my little test kit, but I do enjoy the luxury of these interchangeable smooth wooden, I think they're birch, either birch or beech, but a reasonably hard but not too hard wood. And they're just so smooth and lovely, and I'm just, yeah, I just love them. They bring a smile to my face that they have the colors, and they just make me happy. Sometimes that is all we want, isn't it? Just tools that make us happy using them. Lila says, maybe I need to get myself a bowl instead. Well, whichever brings you joy. There are so many ways to do crafts. I don't think there needs to be a one size fits all, and just because I'm doing a thing doesn't mean you have to do it exactly the same. We just hang out and craft together. I didn't have a yarn bowl before it was gifted to me, but I find it as a fun little detail. I don't bring it with me when we travel because it's surprisingly heavy. It must be quite a hard wood they've used so that it stays put when you pull on the balls. But yeah, Catherine says this cauldron is really nice. They also have smaller ones at Halloween that are meant for baking that I'd also like for crafting purposes. Oh, that sounds so cute. Little baking cauldron. Yeah, we don't have that much Halloween stuff here since it's not such a big thing in Norway. It's coming, but it's mostly just plastic and child's toys and decorations. They're not really useful things, and I find that more and more as I get older and more insular. I'm like, but I would like, I have the most basic of things, so I would like to have nice things. So I look for, you know, ceramics and glass and things that I can put in the dishwasher and what have you. Why are we suddenly with 3 threads? Oh well. A casserole dish for a yarn bowl works if it has a vent hole in the top. I use one. Yeah, that is really cool. I imagine that would work for the same reason that we have, you know, a teapot or something like that, you know, so long as it works. Although I will say that personally, I prefer that this one has a curve. Like, can you see? Yeah, it has the spiral. I don't really use these holes because I like to be able to slide my yarn out and take it with me if we are going anywhere, and I didn't want to bring the yarn bowl. It's just a personal preference. I know there are a lot of people who just have the holes and they love them because sometimes the yarn can slide out of this spiral and come loose, and they don't like that, but I don't really mind. Either way, you just do whatever you prefer, don't you? And oh gosh, we are undoing so much work. Slightly suffering, but it'll all be better in the way. And May says the threads are multiplying. Proud of you. The puns are strong with this one. Very, very strong. Oh, have one thread coming loose. Are you gonna... How far am I gonna be able to pull you? All the way to the end? That wouldn't be a bad thing, so we can be done with the unpicking of things and return to the creation of things. Ooh, it's even coming back. So I seem to have... Ah, there. Yeah. So it was a long stretch where I was more or less picking the same line of things as I intended, and then there's another long stretch where I didn't. The last time I did this, which was also the first time I did this by picking up the previous row before starting the unwinding, I did it with a colorwork sweater. Oops, sorry. That someone... I do apologize if the microphone is picking up on that. My stomach is hungry apparently. Apologies. But I was redoing the cuffs of a colorwork cardigan that Spouse got from their grandmother, and that was a very clear divide between the cuffs, because the cuffs were dark and the rest of the sweater was very colorful, so it was very easy to see which row you were supposed to pick up because there was a very big color contrast. And here there is not, because they're all the same color, which is personally how I prefer to knit. I love lace work, and I think it's lovely, and so many things you can do with it, and so many lovely details. And again, one of those things where color work is gorgeous and I love it, but lace work is one of those skills where a lot of the times you don't see all the work and all the details until you're really up close. Like from afar it can look quite simple. You need to get quite up close and personal to see just how much work and thought went into a thing. And I really love those crafts where they look simple but are quite complex, so you need to know the craft in order to appreciate truly how much work goes into it. I find that for people who don't card weave, it's similar. They don't realize how much work is in card weaving, but between card weavers you'll be like, come up to a ribbon at a market and be like, ooh, there's so much work here, so much gorgeous detail, and oh, this technique or that technique, and just have a fun just being nerds about crafts and having fun. Where am I? Are you supposed to be? Aha, it's a center line. That's why things are a bit weird. I think that you are supposed to be a yarn over, and then you are the next one. And then you are the next yarn over. May says, I have learned how to spin wool the past few months. I now have so much yarn I want to start knitting things, but I'm too scared to start because it's so daunting. All the abbreviations and so few explanations. Oh, I'm sorry. That can be a challenge when you're getting into a new craft, can't it? That it can be a bit daunting. But, one thing that I always recommend, let's see if I can find this, and this is not sponsored, I just like this website. I don't know if this will work for, I don't know where you are. So I don't know which language you would pick. There's a difference between UK like English and Euros and US English, because knitting terms is quite different between the two countries. But if you're struggling with patterns and stuff, I find this website, this is for a yarn seller called Drops. They have a lot of tutorials and videos and things to explain. I hope to do a little bit of that for this shawl, because although I don't really want to do tutorials, this was an idea that I fell into my head that I wanted to do interchangeable patterns where you just get a bunch of diagrams that all go together and you can just pick and choose whichever you want and end up with a shawl that just dances in between patterns and looks a lot more complex than it really is. If you know what I mean? Like, instead of having one pattern throughout the whole thing, which I know some people struggle with because they get so bored with doing the same thing over and over again. So instead, this one is more along the lines of I wanted to give a couple of different patterns so you could just jump between them and they would all sort of work in theory, which is what I'm testing out the theory for you right here, so hopefully it'll be a little bit more pattern tested by the time it reaches you. And then people can just mix and match and they end up with a shawl as they like it, whichever way they want to make it, and everyone will be different, and I thought that could be cool. I have no idea if it'll actually work, but we will see. Lynn says their tabletop campaign is starting. I'm glad you joined us for this one. I'm probably not going to stay too much longer either, but I had hoped that we would finish. Again, we have a case where I violently underestimate how long something is going to take. Like, I thought this would take maybe an hour to unpick this work, and then I would have time to darn my socks after, but it's been almost 2 hours and my socks are still hanging out very much undarned. But I think we are not too far away. We are getting there. Definitely getting there. And it shall be done. I shall be done rectifying or like unpicking this mistake before I go to bed tonight, and that shall be nice, and then I can start over again tomorrow. Catherine says Very Pink Knits on YouTube has excellent tutorials as well. Some in slow motion too, which are, oh, that is lovely. That is an excellent suggestion. I love that. It's very nice. And that is something that I know that I struggle with. I sometimes have a hard time explaining to people how to, like, I forget what it's like to be a beginner again, because it's been so long. I was taught to knit by my grandmother when I was quite young, and I was still in primary school, early in primary school. So it's been longer that I know how to knit than I don't know how to knit. So it can be difficult to explain to people what that beginner mindset used to be like, because it's been so long for me, even though I try. But it's nice that we have these people who can help out with different things. Cecil says meatloaf in the oven. I feel so accomplished making it from scratch. Good for you. Good for you. Good job making things from scratch. It's been a long time since I made that, but yeah, good job. You can be proud of yourself for that. Absolutely. Tiffany says a friend has done a game with others where you draw a stitch pattern from a jar to do a mystery knit. Oh, That sounds like a lot of fun. Ooh. Lily Second's Very Pink Knit tutorials? Excellent. That sounds very, very nice. It's always nice to have some help in finding resources around the world. I think maybe I don't have to unpick the rest, because I think we now have all current stitches on our needles. I will have to do a little check, but I think no, here are some little stray stitches hanging out, so we do need to unpick the rest as well, but that is fine. We are almost there, very much almost there. Catherine says, I learned from a book in my 20s, even though my mom tried when I was a child. I love Very Pink for new stuff I hadn't come across yet, or new cast on techniques. Cool. I'm a bit stuck in my old cast on and knitting ways, and I hadn't really thought about how there are so many different ways to cast on and cast off, because I just learned from my grandmother when I was a child. So in a very common to me black and white thinking, I was just, yeah, that's just how you do it, that's just how you knit, that's just how you purl or cast off or cast on or whatever. And of course it makes so much sense that there are tons of different ones, but I had just never given it much thought until I saw online that people had all these different ways of doing things and all these different methods and all these different ways of knitting, and just so much fun and variety, ending up with quite a similar project. It's just so cool. It's just, yeah, it's just amazing how creative humans all over the world are in making things. I mean, I've seen some Japanese, why are you under there? Some Japanese both knitting and crochet books, and my goodness, those people are so detailed and skilled and fun and all the good things. Devon says, I taught myself how to knit and crochet from books from my local library. That is very cool. Libraries are so underrated. There's so much knowledge. And in Norway, we are super lucky. Like, sometimes I get a little bit frustrated because obviously, being in Norway, our libraries will have primarily books in Norwegian. They have some fantasy and stuff in English that are of the most popular books, and especially like young adult fiction, they will have more in English because they do enjoy reading in English. Or you have people who haven't learned Norwegian yet and they also need entertainment, but largely books are in Norwegian. So when I'm researching for videos here, I can't really use the library as much as I'd like, because I would only end up with sources in Norwegian, which is not helpful for the majority of you. But Norway does have a really cool thing where all the libraries are connected and have a system where they share things. So you actually have where if another library across the country has a book that you want, you can ask your library to request it, and they will take it in free of charge, and you can pick it up, borrow it like you would from your local library, and when you're done with it, unless anyone else near to you want it, they will just send it back to that library with, I don't know, the library transportation service. And you can just borrow books from all over the country as if all libraries were your local library. There's a little bit more waiting time, of course, but it's so cool. So awesome. Another way in which the internet has improved the world, I think, and made some really cool things possible. Let's see. Catherine says, in my black and white thinking, I pick a pattern and it says to use a specific cast on and I don't question. I must learn it. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I'm not very good at doing as I'm told. I just sort of go off goofing. Just read a pattern and go, that's just a guideline, isn't it? I'm just going to do it like this. I often just look at patterns for their diagrams and then I just work around it. I'm horrible in that way. I just like to do things by imagining them. But so long as we have fun doing it, then whichever way people prefer, I think is the good way. If people really like really detailed patterns, then that is perfectly cool. And if people like to goof off and just do things a little bit of their own invention, that is also perfectly cool. And both are equally valid in crafting. I have had more than enough for a lifetime of people judging the way you do or don't do things, and I'm like, why? If you're being creative, that's good enough. Silsa says trying to knit a vest for the team, and it's my first from a pattern, and I have had to Google a lot, particularly expanding narrowing rows. Yeah, there can be a lot to learn when it's not explained first. Lily says off now, but yeah, thank you for joining. That was cozy. Having a good time. Improv is usually easier with stuff you know off by heart, I suppose. But finding cool diagrams, especially for lace, I always look for new cool diagrams to follow because there's so much pretty lace to knit. And yeah, there's just so much cool stuff to do. Sabina said, a lot of grandmothers try to teach me how to knit, but I just never learned it until I tried circular needles instead of straight needles. I can understand that very much. We didn't have circular needles, my grandmother, when I was young, so I also learned on straight needles, and it can be challenging since the stitches start dropping off on the other side if you're not careful. But circular needles are very nice in terms of teaching people how to knit because you don't have that fear of dropping your stitches. So I really enjoy that for the same reason. And I usually just use double point needles in sets when I'm making socks and I want to be able to knit all the way to very, very tiny stitches in the toe without having to change the needles. But if I can get away with circular needles, I will be using circular needles. I enjoy them a lot. Devon says that's how my city's library system works. All the libraries in my city, plus some smaller towns around it, are connected, so you can do the same thing here. I love that. That is so cool. And especially for the smaller libraries, it means they don't have to either tell their patrons that they don't have an item or that they need to have too many items in the archives, because there's so much space issues with libraries, with books taking up space. So I think that is an excellent and very clever system to allow people access to more books without having to travel or pay more for it. I love that system. It is so excellent. P says biblioteket är guldgruvor, which is like libraries are gold mines. Yes, absolutely agree. Libraries are such an excellent public resource. It's just so amazing. And a lot of libraries here are starting to do other things as well in the same spirit as with books, but they might do it with tools, they might do it with seeds, they might do it with children's toys, especially those more expensive ones. Like in Norway, it's quite common to have, like, what should I call it, trip day or hiking day or skiing day or things like that, where you go outside and you are with your class and you are out in nature. And this would happen a couple of times a year. And the problem is, if you're going skiing can be quite an expensive hobby, especially if you have a child and they're growing and they need new skis and new skiing shoes regularly. That can be quite challenging. It can be quite expensive, and if you can't always find secondhand stuff. So libraries started sometimes to take in the more expensive trip things, like, yeah, but skis are a good example, but they have other things too, so that children can borrow those if they go for a trip or something, and they can have access to it, especially if they don't have a large interest in it outside of the trip with school. A field trip, thank you. Field trip is the right word. Because I didn't particularly enjoy being forced to go skiing a couple of times a year. It was not my favorite, and I especially, like, maybe I would have enjoyed if it wasn't the forced aspect of it, because it was always like, you need to bring skis, you need to have a reason not to bring skis, you can't just bring something to slide down in the snow with it, it must be skis. And I didn't enjoy that aspect of sort of forceful enjoying the skiing experience. So I still don't have a particular positive enjoyment of skis. Other people do, and I'm just like, yeah, maybe I'll enjoy it at some point on my own terms, but at the moment I'm still a little bit slow about it. So I wasn't very good, but at least we had a lot of secondhand stuff in our basement, so we would just sort of look for whatever fit this year, and that was yours for the year until the next sibling's turn. But a lot of people don't have that, and it can be time consuming to look for those things secondhand and used. So I like that libraries are starting to do that to a larger extent. And of course, yeah, like Tiffany, like you're saying, instruments, crafting tools, and laptops. That is excellent because they always have the very good computer lab, don't they, where you can see what they are doing and teach people digital skills, teach people how to use various tools. Libraries are just amazing. Librarians are treasures. They are so amazing. Absolutely, libraries are so cool. Where are we in between here? There we go. We did it! Successfully unpicked. Many hours of work. And now we get to do it all over again. Such is life. But yeah, I hope this will be something that... I hope this isn't just cool in my head and it'll just turn out to look... That it will just turn out to look like a mess in real life, but that it'll look like something that is more complicated than it really is. It's just a bunch of small patterns all put out together, and I hope it'll be a fun thing that we can do as a community for those who are interested, because how cool is it to be able to just pick and choose any pattern that you want from a set and they will all sort of go together. Let's just insert my stitch marking thread in the middle while I am doing this so that we don't lose it. There we go. Excellent. Yeah, Pi says my local library has a seed bank now. So many of them do. More and more of them are doing that, and I think that is so cool. I really think that is so amazing. Yeah, libraries are such good public resources. They're so amazing. They do so many cool things. They help so many people. And like so many people point out every time there's an argument about libraries, they provide a space where you are allowed to just be, without buying things, without spending money, without being expected to do anything. You can just grab a book from a shelf and sit down in one of the chairs and chill, which is so rare these days, no matter the weather. It's really amazing. But having finished that, I think it is time for me to go find some food for my poor stomach, which is grumbling into my microphone. I hope that hasn't been too disruptive. But this was lovely, lovely Sunday. And I hope you're gonna have a lovely Sunday and have lovely progression with whichever thing you wish to make. And we will see each other suddenly and unexpectedly, I suppose. Thank you for now. Bye.